What is up? Welcome back to Be Unexpected with Wyatt Spalding and Jake Burnside. Today we're joined by Drake Beranek, head boys high school basketball coach of Kearney High School. Drake, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man, no problem. Anything for my man Wyatt and his friend Jake. I'm glad I could be on.
Yeah. So Drake, you were a walk-on at Nebraska. You played at the University of Kearney, but what people know you for is your high school basketball career as well. And you got to play for your dad at Ravenna High School. So tell us about you growing up and what it was like to play for your dad.
Yeah, it was, I guess as you're going through, you probably don't realize how special it is. But now that I've been able to coach for a while and reflect back on what we were able to accomplish and the amount of quality time we were able to spend together, and the fights and the celebrations and all that good stuff, all those memories are just so important. I think one thing that I really learned about just going through the stuff that I had to do with my dad was just the importance of memories. And I really think life's a lot about relationships and memories, and just trying to make a memory every time you get a chance to. And so um, all those memories I have with my friends and my family, a lot of it goes back to basketball, and a lot of it started there. So pretty awesome opportunity, and glad I was able to do it with my dad.
So like as a little kid growing up, like did your dad just kind of put you in basketball or did he just kind of let you do whatever and you just gravitated towards it because
Yeah,
you're
I
watching him
mean,
coach?
it's so weird. I wish I could kind of talk to my dad a little bit about, and obviously my mom's still around, so we have conversations. But I have a son now. He's 2 years old. His name's Baylor, and so just to see the difference between him and how my daughters grew up. My oldest daughter's going to be 6. Her name's Kinley, and I've got a 3-year-old daughter named Kada. And they like basketball, but I think it's more just to please dad.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Baylor just he has to wear a jersey every day, and I never even wore jerseys that I know of. So just it's weird how these kids just kind of come out, and people probably think that I make him do basketball, and I really don't. The other day we were leaving daycare, and he dribbled a basketball all the way out of daycare without it stopping as a 2-year-old, and so you're just sitting there like, I don't know, that's different. So I'd assume that I was kind of that way, I would guess.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do remember is my dad got me a Drake basketball from the University of Drake in Des Moines,
Mm-hmm.
and it had Drake on it. And so it was a blue and white basketball. And so there's some memories there that I can remember early on. But Dad really got us started in YMCA. A couple of my buddies and I going in kindergarten and first grade, and I'm sure it just kind of was innately something that I enjoyed doing.
Nice.
Nice. Drake, so you have 2 younger brothers, correct?
Yep. So I have a brother Riley who lives in New York, and then I've got a brother Connor who's here in Kearney with us now. So it's pretty fun.
Awesome. So I'm sure there's a lot of stories of competitiveness growing up with you two and basketball wise, and not just basketball, but I'm sure roughhousing in the basement, all that stuff.
Yeah, no, like my brother Riley, he's kind of into some fine arts and some singing and things like that, but he still played basketball. And actually, it's kind of funny. He played in the Heartland Hoops Classic, and that's the deal that's in Grand Island. Tino Martinez puts it on. They have some really good teams there. And until a couple years ago, he was the only one to share a record in that. If you ask somebody like which Beranek would have a record in the record book for the Heartland Hoops, it probably wasn't going to be Riley, but he did. He had the 7 threes in a game, and so it tied the record. He'd had a record tied with Jesse Carr, who was a fantastic player from Ainsworth, ended up going to Colorado State, and then the Lamb kid from Columbus, I believe it was Scotus. And so it's kind of a funny little story there. Connor was playing on the same team at the same time, and I'm pretty sure he didn't pass it to Riley about 3 times because Connor knew the school record for threes was 9 in a game. So there's no way he was getting 8. But so yeah, it's just kind of funny how things happen. And it turns out that my former player, Colin Murray, broke the record and had 8 in that tournament. So it was kind of just funny how all that kind of, I couldn't see his name in there no more. So I had to get Colin to do it. That was pretty good.
Nice.
Is that the tournament that they've had like Oak Hill come and they
Yeah,
played
yep. So
Central and stuff?
yep, that had just been the games that happened beforehand. I
Okay.
think they played at like 10 o'clock in the morning, but still, you go out there and it's kind of got a state tournament vibe to it. Obviously, there's some really cool matchups every year. I think that year they might have played like a Weeping Water or something like that. But yeah, so it was kind of cool that Riley had that record for a while. And, obviously, Connor and I go at each other quite a bit. And we've got some alumni tournament stories and things like that. But it's just it was fun growing up in the house. We had a great neighborhood. We had some really competitive games in our neighborhood. We played a lot of capture the flag, but in Ravenna you could cross the street whenever you wanted. So that was the middle boundary. So we played like block wide capture the flag and things like that. So just I think competition is super important, and luckily we were able to get a lot of that where we grew up.
So you guys in high school, you guys did something that not a lot of small schools, you're Class C2. You guys played, is it Bellevue or Bellevue
Yeah,
West?
yeah, Bellevue West. Yeah.
Yeah, Bellevue West, and they were like #1 in Class A, and you guys were #1 in Class C2. And how'd your dad make that all happen? Would you
So
just talk or?
yeah, in the summer we were kind of in the same tournaments sometimes. Like I was playing on an area team, and we were around Coach Woodard a little bit. I think that they knew that we were an okay team. We went down and played in an MBDA tournament in the summer, and played against like Lincoln Southeast when they had Matt Hill. Played against Omaha Central when they had some Grigsby boys and another good post player. We played against Creighton Prep. I mean, we were playing against some pretty good teams, and we ended up winning it. We played against North Star, which had Derek Russell and Tyler Bullock, who are both really good players. And granted, it's summertime, but I think people could kind of figure out that our team was able to compete at that level. Now that I'm in Class A, it is really wild how tough it is every night. For us to go in there and do it one game, that's probably not that surprising. If we were able to play a Class A schedule every night, I wonder how good we would do, just because the strain and the toll that it takes on your body and the different athletes that are on the floor at the same time. But yeah, for that one night, man, that was pretty crazy. I know our town really loved that game and really supported us a ton. And so it meant a lot to the little small town in central Nebraska, that's for sure.
How'd the game turn out?
I ended up losing down the stretch. We were up 21 at one time, and coaching against Coach Woodard and his teams, no lead safe, and so I figured that out the first time I played against him. I figured it out every time since. So every time you got a lead with him, you're just kind of grabbing onto your seat, just holding on for dear life. But there's either some adjustments that he makes or just some motivational speeches that he gives, but his teams really respect him and turn it on when they need to. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Was that with like Antoine Young?
Yeah,
Is that the
yeah,
team?
that'd have been
Okay.
Antoine Young, Jake Meyer, all good. Jeff Martin, who was a teammate of mine at UNK. So they had a really good team, and I think that might have been they might have got runner up that year. I think they lost to Omaha Central, and it was kind of the start of Omaha Central's run with all those good guys and Coach Barnes. So yeah, just crazy how everything turns out.
Was that played at Bell West or?
Yeah, we went to Bell West and it was packed. I mean, it
Yeah.
was there was like 3,500 people there or more. There's people out in the Commons area because they couldn't get in. The line was started after we were leaving from warm walk through the day of. I mean, it was a pretty big deal, and it's frustrating because we definitely could have won it, and but it was also pretty cool that Doug was gracious enough to play us and give us a chance, and so. It's one of those things where, you try to learn from it and continue to grow from whatever opportunities you're given. And so, just trying to find that next opportunity for us to figure out what we learned from the Bellevue West game is what I've been doing my whole life.
Nice.
So I got a stat for you, and then I kind of got a question to that. So I actually found this on the Ogallala newspaper or McCook. So you guys, while you were in high school, you were 73-7. Does that sound correct?
Yeah,
And so you won 3 state titles? 4.
that's my brother won 3.
Okay.
We won 1 and got runner up once,
Okay.
but I think we were 73-7. Maybe that was Connor. But we won 44 straight games as a team. our first loss was to Bellevue West. We were kind of climbing up the consecutive win stuff, and so. But go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, no, but my question was now looking back, as a high school kid and being, you guys were obviously successful. How did you guys carry yourself around the high school? Like you guys were the basketball team, were these great players, but how could you reflect on that, or what your guys' mindset was, or how you carried yourself?
You know, I hope well. I hope that we were good examples, and I hope we treated people the right way. I'm sure we were in high school, so there were probably some moments where we didn't. But for the most part, I think that we were pretty good examples for people in our community. We didn't go to parties. We didn't do a lot of that stuff. Now, I'm not saying that we haven't made up for lost time, or some of us haven't made up for lost time from not partying in high school. But you know, for the most part, I felt like we treated people pretty well, given all the success that we had had.
Now, like your dad, having success with your team and your brother's teams, I bet that was hard as a coach. Like, you guys were like undefeated before, but you could probably somewhat face adversity because that's what sports is about. What adversity you guys face as, it's hard to say as undefeated team, you guys face adversity, but I bet your dad had to like somehow, coach you guys to like not be overconfident and play
Yeah.
like every team was tough. So
Well, and a lot of people don't know that, my dad didn't have anybody to learn the game from. He literally learned it from the people that he interacted with, and kind of on his own. And so it took him some time to figure out a recipe that worked. And it's just like anything in life where you got these guys that try different things and they don't work the first time, second time. Walt Disney, there's all those guys that are famous for their failures and overcoming it. But he had a 1-win season, I think, once, and a 4-win season the season before I became a freshman. My freshman year, so we must have been a little bit less than 73-7. That must have been Connor, because I think we were maybe under 500 my freshman year. And then the next year we were like 21-5. And then we were undefeated my junior year. And so, it just because of what we achieved at the end of our careers didn't mean that there wasn't struggles and adversity throughout getting there. Anytime you're playing some young kids in a small community, there's going to be some people that are upset. But if you do it the right way, and you explain why, and your vision is what it is, people might not agree with it, but they'll understand it, I think. And so the adversity there was just, and don't get me wrong, we're so fortunate to be from Ravenna that everybody was very supportive of what we were trying to do. But there was definitely some adversity along the way. And one thing that people don't really think about is sometimes in small schools, we don't get to choose who we play. So one year a team's really good, and the next year they're not very good. It's not like we can adjust our schedule based on how good our small team is. And, so some years your schedule is really tough, other years it's not. And I think North Bend Central Volleyball kind of saw a little of that too, where they hadn't played a set or a game that was over 3 sets or whatever, 4 sets in volleyball. And as you get down to the better teams, you're going to need to play some 5 sets every once in a while, and they don't have experience in that sometimes. Same thing for us. We were winning quite a few games by 20, 30, whatever. So maybe we were playing 3/4 of the game or whatever. And so whether it's conditioning or whatnot, or late game situational things, we weren't in a lot of close games. So there was some learning there that needed to take place. And but yeah, there's a lot of good times, but trust me, there's always some rough times for sure.
yeah, people always see the record, but they're not in practice every day.
Yeah, and that's our practices were tough. I remember getting thrown around by my best friend one time in a one-on-one drill. And so, it's how it is, man. You got to compete and find ways to compete. And luckily, I was in a class that was super competitive, and so practices weren't a time to just go in there and jack around. We're trying to get better. And if that means I got to take it to you, I got to take it to you. And so I really respect the guys I played with because they really pushed everyone to be better.
Nice.
Yeah, that's probably, when you think about it, it's so true. If you guys had so much success in games, but you guys were so competitive, that's what kind of drove you guys to compete and win all those games.
I was talking to a coach that's a college coach in the ACC, and they're talking more and more how important it is to find kids that are competitive. and to the point where it might even be more important than finding a guy that can shoot it well and dribble it well. For whatever reason, it seems like people are maybe a little bit less competitive in the last couple of years than they were before, and so they're kind of seeing a drop of that at the next level. And you know, if you're competitive, man, to me that's the number one most important thing to be an athlete is be competitive in everything that you do. Because if I compete on the floor, if I can't dribble, I'm going to compete in practice. I'm going to figure out how to dribble. You know, if competition is the one thing that you always can go to, you're going to compete in everything that you do. If I'm not good at shooting, I will compete to where I'm going to become a better shooter. I don't know that I'll be the best shooter, but I'm going to be a better shooter. And so competition is just, to me, it's one of the most important things to being successful is being competitive in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and you found that in college. You went to University of Nebraska Kearney. You averaged 22 points a game. You got a bunch of awards. It was all conference and one of the best players in D2. But then you decided to walk on at Nebraska.
Yeah.
And
Speaking of competition,
you won the Hustle Award and you led the team in charges and you fought for loose balls. So how did that feel going from you averaged a bunch of points and was the guy on your high school and eventually your college team to now, you're a role player at Nebraska or you had to walk on?
I think I appreciated the fact that I did it because, I think as a coach, if I didn't do that, I don't know that I could connect with some of the kids that I'm asking to do those roles as well. You know, if all I ever was the star of the team, and then I ask a kid, hey, I need you to go in and get rebounds and foul the crap out of somebody. Can you do that for me? And, I was that guy one time. And so it allows me to maybe meet a kid where they're at a little bit better and hopefully help them to understand that. And just because you're doing those things doesn't mean you're any less important than the guy that's scoring 25, because I've done them both.
Mm-hmm.
I've also been on the bench for the entire part of a game, so it's not just the guys that are getting in that make the difference. So, yeah, I mean, the transition from Nebraska Kearney to Nebraska was definitely tough, man. There's some really good players, but being able to adapt and find a role for me to be able to find the floor is something that I'm very proud of. I mean, I definitely played a little bit differently, but it was something that our team needed and I was willing to do it. And so I think it speaks maybe and hopefully is an example of what you can do if you're a kid that wants to get on the floor. Maybe you don't have to score 20. You got to do the things that are important. And I thought I did that at Nebraska.
Nice.
I remember going to the Devaney Center and watching you guys play. And before this, I was looking at the roster and I forgot in my mind as a kid, like, gosh, these guys are all stars. I was just looking Tony McRae, Ashante Jones, Jorge Brian Diaz. Who's the big guy? Brendan Ubell, but then Andre Almeida.
Yeah, Almeida.
Gallegos, Lance Jeter. Like in my mind as a kid, like, gosh, those guys should be Sweet 16. But you got any funny stories with Doc Sadler or anything? I'm sure there's.
First, I love Doc, and Doc's the best because Doc is who he is. Some of these guys at the college level, I think, are probably pretty good at their image and how they portray themselves. But Doc is what he is. What you see on TV, what you see in interviews is who he is as a person, who he is behind closed doors. And that's something that I've always really tried to take away from him was the fact that just be who you are. And people are going to like you, they ain't going to like you, but just be who you are and be comfortable in your own skin. And there's so many different things. We went to the Bahamas, Puerto Rico. Andre Almeida, I took a charge on him in practice. And I think he put his knee like right in my gut. And that was probably the last time I got in his way. You'd think you'd be fast enough to get out of the way of Andre, but I guess I wasn't that time. And so took a charge on him. Lance Jeter was a fantastic competitor. I really respect Lance and how he competed. And that guy's legs are like freaking tree trunks, man. He just as strong as an ox. And if there was a game-winning play that needed to be made, he made it. And so we had a really good team. We really did. We stumbled a little bit down the stretch there after beating Texas. We lost to Iowa State, needed to win that game and needed to beat a Colorado team. But, we were pretty close to getting to the tournament and unfortunately came up a little bit short. But those are some guys that I'm glad I was able to meet, and guys that I enjoyed playing with.
Nice. So now it's like coaching. What do you, what do you think is like the hardest thing about coaching today? The adversity you try to overcome as a coach, and you learn the lessons you learned as a player and put that into your coaching.
Whoa, geez. I'm fortunate in Kearney just because there's a lot of kids that I think the same way that I do and are raised the same way that I was. And so, I think something that's hard to coach right now is competition. But man, our kids compete really hard and they play really hard every time they step on the floor. And I'm able to coach them hard also. And that's not the case everywhere. Lucky for me that I think that they kind of trust me a little bit. Obviously, you have to establish a good relationship with your kids if you're going to coach them hard
Mhm.
first. And I think that we do a pretty good job of that. But that can be tough at times. Trying to figure out when to push a button, when not to. But the adversity at Kearney is there's really really good teams in Class A, and
Yeah.
it's not just the guys that you always hear about, the Miller North and W West and all those guys. There are really competitive teams in Lincoln right now. Lincoln's as good as it's been since I've been coaching from top to bottom. Lincoln's always had some really good teams, but maybe that bottom tier wasn't quite as competitive. Well, now that's not the case, and then Fremont's got a really good team coming back next year, so the hack's going to be really tough. So there's just a lot of adversity built into everybody's season. Everybody has the same things that they kind of go through, but that's a really good question. I haven't thought about it much. I'll have to do some thinking on it.
Do you enjoy like the adversity you face in a game? Like you're up and then you're down as a coach? Because then, like some of the best games are like when you come back and win or win at the end.
Yeah, so like I guess I've always been a guy that's kind of been drawn to adversity, I guess. I don't know. I've never been the most athletic person ever. I've always had to kind of work at some things and maybe not supposed to be good at something and can figure out a way to find a way to be decent at it. So I kind of call myself an adversity junkie. I kind of like the tough spot. Give me the hardest thing that we can do, and let's try to figure out a solution or figure out a way to get out of it and be the best that we can be. And so, yeah, I mean, it's fun to be in a game and be down and get your guys to rally around a common theme and go get a W. And there's probably nothing better than that feeling. But yeah, it's something that's definitely a coach and a team has got to be used to fighting through adversity. There's no question.
What's the hardest part and the best part of coaching high school kids?
Well, now, just having my family, it gets a little tougher, because you're
Yeah.
leaving the house before the sun's up and before they go to school, and then you're getting home and it's late and they're ready for bed. One thing I really want to make sure that I do is be a good dad and a good husband. And so that can get a little bit difficult at times, especially when you're looking at the dog days of January. But the best part is just the relationships that you create with your kids and the lifelong, obviously relationships that you have with them. And so, I've been pretty new into coaching for, they're starting to get to the stage where they're getting married and doing some of that stuff. And so that next stage is going to be fun. But watching kids graduate college and different things is super rewarding. Going off and coaching and being successful or being successful in a job. So that's the nice part about social media is you can kind of keep tabs on some kids a little bit. Obviously there's some problems with social media, but man, if we would just use social media for the reason to just stay in touch with some old friends, stay in touch with some old teammates, watch your former players grow and become good human beings, that's pretty good. When we start going down that negative path, it gets a little bit tricky. But yeah, so there's some really good things about coaching for sure.
Nice. Well, one last question. How's your team going? You got a lot of upperclassmen, underclassmen on the team this year?
Yeah, it seems like here in Kearney, we kind of usually get a mixture of both. We lose 2 or 3 really good players. We get 2 or 3 guys we really think can help us. And so it just kind of cycles itself through. We've been fortunate to have some really good teams and really good players. But, it's just, like I said, our kids work really hard. It's a joy to be around them at practice. They compete. And I've said it a million times, that man, do I love the competition of just trying to find a way to scrap together some wins, scrap together possession, and just teaching the game of basketball its purest form. Just having guys understand what it's like to be unselfish and laying your life, your body on the line for the team defensively, and giving everything that you got and not being afraid of coming up short. I think a lot of people are afraid of failure. And obviously, if there's one thing that I've talked a lot about today, it's I failed a lot. We didn't make an NCAA tournament. We we got runner up my senior year in high school. There's a lot of things that I haven't done well, and so, but I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid to put my effort on the line and say I gave it everything I had, and whatever happens, happens. I think today a lot of people are too cool to give their best effort because they're afraid of coming up short. And I think that has a lot to do with social media influence, to be honest. I mean, we're so afraid of what other people think about us that we're afraid to give the best effort that we can give because we might fail. And to me, that's not the way that we should be. We should throw it out there on the line. Whatever happens, happens.
Definitely.
Yeah, you see so many kids. I can see you. Oh, it's too cool to go all out. It's too cool to be respectful to on the court to the other team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's we're definitely there, and so just trying to educate kids about how the right way to respond. If the ball rolls down, pick it up, hand it to the referee. And don't get me wrong, I've definitely had my fair share of those, and everybody's a lifelong learner, right? I just think it's so much fun to go through life and continue to learn as we go about how to become better and how to do things better and how to be better people. That I wasn't a perfect person. I still am not a perfect person, but it's not for lack of trying to become better, and so I'm not afraid to say that I have some faults and say that I'm giving my best effort. And if it's not enough, it's not enough. But I'm with you. We're trending towards kind of a time where it's just too cool to do some things the right way. So hopefully there's some positive influences out there that can help change it.
Definitely. Well, thanks, Drake, for joining us on Be Unexpected. We really appreciate you coming on. So
yeah, man, anytime. I know you guys got some really cool stories about what you guys have gone through, and so anytime that I can be around some guys that are like-minded and learn from you guys, it's always fun to get on here. So I appreciate what you guys are trying to do. If you ever need anything, let me know, and look forward to watching some more of you guys' podcasts.
thanks, and good luck with this season. You guys start December 1st, your first game, right?
Yeah. So we'll lay it on the line versus Creighton Prep. So easy off the bat, right?
Yeah.
It's a great environment. We play in a great environment. Anytime you can get Creighton Prep to come out this way, it's always fun. So they've got a great team, got a lot of respect for their program, and if anything, it should just be a great high school basketball game.
Definitely. Well, thanks again for joining us, Drake.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Man, what a great interview with head coach of Kearney High School boys basketball team, Coach Drake Beranek. I really liked how his competitiveness, like he just really was all about, you can get good shooters and guys that can score, but I just want guys that can compete, whether it's offense, defense. I want guys that compete both ways and just really, put it all on the line for the team. I thought it was cool how he could play for his dad and just like that experience of playing with his dad. And, they faced adversity, on the team that went undefeated, won state as a junior and then lost as a senior in the state championship game. But, they still faced adversity and learned how to overcome it as a team. And that just had to be a great experience overall of playing with his dad or playing for his dad in high school. So,
yeah, they it's not like they weren't competitive in practice. You know what I mean? They got to be, if they want to run the table and have undefeated seasons and win state championships, they had to be competitive at practice and going at it. And how he just emphasized on, everyone playing their role. There's role players, there's people who are scoring the points. And when he was at Kearney, he was scoring all the points. What was it? 21 points a game he was averaging around there. And then his decision to transfer to Nebraska, he's so glad he did it because, he was more of the role player, averaging a lot less points a game, coming right off the bench, and just getting to experience that playing the Big 12, like he shared about playing Texas, Iowa State, just rolling with guys like Brandon Ubell and Tony McRae and all those guys, and just his experience with Doc Sadler. He's just kind of a shoot you straight kind of guy. You see what you see is what you get, and he'll tell it straight. So yeah, I just love his mindset, and it just sounds like if you're a high school kid, like why would you not want to play for him and lay it all on the line for Coach Beranek?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, to go from like high school, I looked it up. Like when he was a junior, he was averaging like 30 points a game in
Jeez.
the state tournament.
Whew.
He did that in his senior year too. He was first team Division II All North Central Region, was first team All Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, a bunch of other accomplishments. Like you said, averaged over 20 points a game, and then he goes to Nebraska. He can't play the first year because it's not like it is today. You just play right away. So he's just a practice player. Then he averages like 4 to 6 points a game off the bench, but he became the sixth man, and he played in like all 32 games. And I bet he really had to like change his mindset. That's a different mindset going from the guy leading the main man on the team to he's a role player now. So, but I think it was cool how because he did that, like you said, he can relate to all of his players now. He like you said, first guy on the bench, the last guy on the bench. So
Probably had a few humbling moments when he made it to Lincoln, at practice, going against those obviously way better athletes than Kearney, and just being like, wow, this is a whole nother ball game.
Yeah. And then we didn't ask him this, but I bet going from high school to just going to like play Division II basketball, even like definitely like as a, I would just think as any college basketball freshman, whatever division you play or level you play, it's a wake up call that it's a whole different ball game. So
going to high school, Class A, obviously in Class A is Nebraska, and then NAIA. I mean, even that, and then D2, it's a whole nother ball game. As your brother could relate. I mean, it's just a whole nother game.
Yeah, I just remember like when my when Wes, my twin brother, played at Hastings College and then in high school, like he's like, yeah, dude, it's way different. Like, you get all the good players, all the guys that want to play basketball. Everyone was like the guy on their high school team, and now you got to find a fit on this college basketball team. So, and for Drake to go from, I mean, he didn't play like you said, Class A is the highest, biggest school, but he played Class C too, and that's like middle or one of the smallest classes in high school for Nebraska, and then he goes from Division II and then Division I. So definitely, I bet he learned a lot of adversity and life lessons, and helped him in his coaching. Today, like we just said. So
learned a lot from his dad too. It sounds like, even with, we didn't dive into it, but what his dad went through and what he was dealing with. So yeah, it just sounds like he learned a lot from his dad growing up too.
Oh yeah, for sure. I bet his dad was a huge like role model, just in basketball, but obviously in life too. So
definitely.
Well, that's gonna do it for us on Be Unexpected. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook. You can email us at beunexpected100@gmail.com, which is the same for Instagram is beunexpected100. You follow us on the Facebook page, like I said. You can also watch this interview and other interviews we do live on the YouTube channel, Life with Wyatt Spalding. And then also Jake and I, we're going to start sharing our story as well, what we went through. But if you would like to, for Jake and I to come speak to your basketball team, your high school, college, please contact us, send an email or DM us on Instagram, and we would love to come speak to your school. So that's it on Be Unexpected. See ya.
Later.